Some of you have dire circumstances, like a third party, like an impending divorce. Now, coming up at the moment in the squad this Friday, 10:30 p.m. GMT on Friday, March 1st, you can come and watch John Johnson's interview. Now, John Johnson, that's not his actual name, but it's his name on TikTok, has been with me a very long time. And he is one of my greatest success stories, and then one of my greatest, I would say, disaster stories. Now, I'll explain. John had coaching back in the day with me when I used to do one-to-one coaching in my first month of being on TikTok. My first month of TikTok, I went live and everyone started begging me for coaching. I wasn't even going to do it, but I did it. I did it only for 3 months. And John had a call with me. We spoke face-to-face like this over video call privately. It wasn't in the squad like my other coaching calls. It was a very emotional call. We both had very, very similar self-concepts. I found it very moving when I would do those calls back in the day and someone was very similar to me. There were some tears, especially from me. And in that call, John discovered all the things he'd been thinking in himself, about himself, that lost his girlfriend. He'd lost her completely. He went away and he decided to really, really work on his self-concept. And he worked on his self-concept like no one I've ever seen. He was so vigilant. He did not let the old thoughts creep in. He stuck with the new thoughts of himself. He really listened to what I said on the call about really working on his core self-concept issues that we uncovered because of his childhood. He got her back. They were blissfully back together. Then they got engaged. We were all so thrilled. Everyone in the group knew of him. Everyone knew the story because he'd always been on the lives. Then they got married. We saw the wedding photos, everything. Next minute, I would say almost a year later, he messaged me to say, we're getting divorced. To say I was shocked would be like the biggest understatement. I felt sick. I thought, how in the hell has this happened? But I know how it happened. Because I had watched him deteriorate in his thinking via Facebook. We're friends on Facebook. And I'd seen a few posts that seemed pretty negative. And I was like, what's this? What's he doing? He knows better than to write shit like this or be concerned about the outside world or concerned about third parties. And guess what he manifested? Not only divorce papers, but the third party he was focusing on Facebook. He knows this. And I'll discuss this with him on the call. He then wrote to me on Messenger, told me what happened. And I said, John, get your fucking shit together. I said this via Messenger. And he knew what he'd done. He knew what he'd done because he'd undone it before. All the shit he'd done before, he fixed. But then his mind went backwards. Now, did he let the circumstance of divorce papers after only like a year of marriage deter him? Don't you think that would be one of the worst circumstances you can possibly imagine? You've just got blissfully, happily married to the girl you got back. And then you've got divorce papers in your hand. I can't think of any worse circumstance that's come up in my group, really. The other day, we're on a live. He said, Loz, the divorce is off. Now, I knew they'd just got back together, but he was telling me officially the divorce is off. Now, an email is coming up this week telling you all about it, but you can actually deep dive into exactly what happened, if he wants to tell us, in his mind that caused the circumstances, if he wants to deep dive into the old story. And he probably will because John's pretty open, okay? And John's also one of our mentors in our group. And he teaches this brilliantly, but there's a difference between teaching this to someone and answering their questions and really doing it. And just for a moment there, some circumstances happened in their 3D that allowed his mind to go backwards. But he knows what he did and he fixed it masterfully. You can turn around any circumstance, guys, even an impending divorce, when you realize that you caused it. You understand? You've got to understand that you're the only cause of your reality, that your circumstances were caused by you. And if you don't get that, you won't be able to turn it around. If you don't get that, you'll be stuck like the other person I was talking about, constantly looking for movement, seeing if the circumstance changes. John wasn't worried if the circumstance changed and kept looking at the circumstance and checking. He just lived in the new reality of being back together with his wife and worked and worked and worked on himself. And I saw the progress of him working on himself. I even saw his gym pics and he was getting buffer and musclier and healthier all on Facebook. I saw it and I knew he'd succeed. I didn't actually think he'd succeed as quick as he did, but he did. And I'm so fucking proud of him. So if you would like to come and watch John's interview, I cannot wait. It's 10:30 p.m. GMT in the Squad this Friday. Now, if you missed it, you can watch it back. But if you're there, at the end of the interview, you can ask him questions directly about what he did. You can ask your own questions and I will ask him your questions. I will go through the chat and I'll read them out.